Hello and
Hello.
welcome to Nature's Neighbor. I'm your host, Melanie Blankenship, joined in the Paso Podcast Studios with my good friend Josh Carmichael. Hi, Josh. How are you on
In the
this
flesh.
Monday? Monday of the month of July.
Is
This
it?
is
Oh, is that why it feels weird?
That's probably why it feels
It feels a
weird.
little extra today. Quick.
Yeah, when you're looking at the calendar and you're trying to plan out, farming or projects or, ideas of what you want to see, and you realize that you had 5 Mondays, not 4 Mondays in a calendar, it really threw things off, right? So,
I can feel it. I can feel it today.
I think we're all
I had
feeling
to
it.
shuffle. Yeah, to get things going and not where I wanted them to be scheduled. As I went into a big weekend of events and running around, and then boom, Monday was like, well, what are you going to do now? So
Monday came
here we
quick.
are.
Monday was like a little bit of a shocker in the morning. And, here we are at the very end of July and in the middle of summer, right? 2025. But the craziness about this is we really haven't had a summer.
It's been mild. We were talking about that a lot yesterday.
I was over in the valley this
Going to
weekend.
the valley, yeah.
And it was 89 degrees.
Beautiful.
In Fresno. Like normally it's 110 and plus, and it was 89 degrees. And I'm still saying that because it's shocking. And then when we got home last night, it was 67 degrees. And I was cold. And
Yeah, it was cold this week in Paso.
Yeah.
For Paso. My daughters were complaining that I get so cold at the fair. I'm like, why are they saying like, oh yeah, put more clothes on, kids?
The fair was
come on.
Fair had a cold. I mean, normally you'll have a couple of days of cold during the fair, but you'll always know when the animals come in, it's usually going to hit the triple digits, and it never did. And so, the extended forecast is showing for a little warm up, and for far out extension of into August, they're saying record breaking heat. But what does that mean? I just got done teaching a soils class at Gina Hambley's at Hambley's Lavender Farm on Saturday, and we had a small little group, but it was fun because I was able to kind of just give them a one-on-one in the translation and recognizing of
Very
soil.
nice, yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, like teaching soil is also the reason, teaching translation of soil, right, is also the reason why when I threw out a topic today was mental health. And it's mental health has become this unopen for dialogue
can of worms,
right? Like, just
For
because
lack of better
you'll
word,
say, I'm, struggling mentally. What does that really mean? But I'm also going to say, like, teaching soil, you see when soil is struggling in a balance, how crazy things come from it.
Yeah.
It's why
what type of plants?
why is my plant doing this? Why is my tomatoes not forming the way that they're supposed to be?
I had that with some bell peppers and other peppers this year. Just every other bed was going nuts. Tomatoes, cucumbers, same conditions, same fertilizing, same watering schedule, and it was just kind of like, wow, what did we do here? Finally, we got them back on track with drying out. It was the water.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know, and I think that's hopefully where your metaphor is going. Like, there's so many components.
Yeah, plants
to
only
a mental
plants
health
only
or
eat when water's
balance.
present, right?
Yeah.
We don't eat every single minute of the day, every day of the year.
Hopefully you balance
you're
meals,
balancing
though.
it out, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that is exactly why I wanted to go into this discussion with you, because it's a big old eye
Call it
opener.
finding balance.
Finding
Mental
balance
health is-
mentally with the soil, right? It's got to be, because it's the same, right?
Well, you have
Plants
the
will
mind, body, soul. Yeah.
translate that the soil is unbalanced. The body translate that the mind is imbalanced.
Yes.
Right? And I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I'm only going to talk about my own self, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, weather plays such a huge factor. But even with weather, if I balance the ideas in my head, projects, coping,
Family.
family, business, if I balance that out with diet. And I'm going to tell you this kind of funny, because here we went over to the valley yesterday and had a blast with family, but it was crazy to me is how even just in that short of a trip, getting out of my bubble of what we are used to eating, being able to have the store available to fresh fruit all the time, but just getting out of that and just eating what what restaurant we chose to eat at, and noticing just how I felt with the changing of the weather and what I consumed. And it felt heavy. I feel, puffy and bloated. I gained,
Some good fried greasy
yeah,
stuff.
oh gosh, yes, and junk food, and it's but how quickly that happens, right? But this is what I'm saying, our mental health, and I'm saying this because I'm noticing in our society the lack of availability of coping and being able to process.
Okay.
The simple questions of when somebody doesn't get the answer they thought they should, and the reactions that happen.
Yeah.
Right? Or you had a different tone with me. Or, why are you angry with me? I wasn't angry. Where do you get that that I was angry? Well, I interpret it as you becoming so passionate in this discussion that you were angry. And I'm like,
Well, it doesn't always all bravo on you. That's so funny. I mean, I think I can see this from, as it grows throughout our lives. We had our friends we did the restaurant event with Saturday night at Celia's Garden Cafe, and Celia came, and the new friends were there, the owners, and Cubano. We had a great night with everyone, but I had their 1-year-old baby with me a few times, walking around the restaurant. Yeah, and she just started walking, so she's walking around, and at one point I didn't see her, and I bump her into the door, and I was like, oh no, and her parents weren't close by, so I had to grab her. And I had to tell her that I was sorry. But, with babies, it's kind of like you don't want to overreact and make them think that that's what they should be accustomed to. So I was able to kind of calm her down and not really like over baby her with like, she already had a knot on this side of the head and she hit back here. Like, so, she's learning, right? Like we all go through. And then you watch your beautiful little baby girl like beat herself up. That's a hard place to be. But it was good for the mom to have a moment and realize she didn't have to run in. Like Uncle Josh could do it.
Yeah,
and
coping.
So, we have these things. And so I think that there is some breakdown, in the generations here of just like the older people, they cope, they're raised by the silent generation. So you don't even know they're upset, but you can see how fast they're doing something or how fervently or nonstop. And then I think you get in through, millennials. And today we have talked about mental health a lot more. People even they call it, mental health days. I don't know. People really take it to another limit of like maybe they're not coping enough on their own. So again, finding balance in life is just where everything really, lands so that you can hold so much more. So learning what does that mean personally, what is a good mental health, I think is very independent.
Have we become the society, though, that we use mental health as an excuse to cop out?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's one end of the extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like you got your political extremes. You have these extremes too, like work too hard or, rest too hard.
Yep.
And there's really a balance in there where it's good for you or not. Like I'm walking around this weekend after, running around doing the event. We cooked from midnight to 6 in the morning before. We, served till 11 o'clock at night. And the next day I had to run to, Baco, get a trailer. So we're driving around the road.
Bakersfield.
Properly, Bakersfield.
Yes, thank you.
Where the girl with faraway eyes lives.
Oh.
Nice. That's a Rolling Stones song.
Well, no, I know that's a Rolling Stones, but yes,
So I just
on the
wanted to
streets
say,
of Bakersfield.
Yeah, on the streets of Bakersfield, we found ourselves that morning. But we, so I'm walking in, knees sore, and I'm like, what do I need more in my life? I'm like, Josh, you really need to probably exercise more and get, your health balance so you could do that much running around and things. But, that's where, you feel what's out of balance and then you have a response. So I think there's some sort of response we need to balance out and did I need to take today off of work because I was, people called in sick and I was tired and everything else? No. We ended up having a beautiful day. Everyone got to work in the garden and do garden maintenance where, we just shifted our energies and we shifted that response. And, it's summer on the Central Coast. No days are going to be bad. It was funny when we were in Bakersfield and people were like, oh, did you come up here for the day? I was like, no, my friend. We did get good tacos. She showed us where to get good tacos. So I appreciated that.
And you and I started this conversation before we went on air to, the topic of the day, because we bring topics to the show based upon what the previous week has brought and what our community, because you and I are out in the
Yeah,
community
we're barometers here for the
doing
community.
things, and then we're going to break it down in our 1 hour podcast, and I'm going to share what's come to me, and you're going to share, and we're going to put this together as neighbors talking to neighbors, right? And seeing how
Exactly.
we can best move it forward. And I love the comment that you, and it's ringing in my mind right now, that you just brought up, because again, there's this discussion out there a lot about, missing money or unaccountability for money. And where's these programs? And, this program has this amount of money for farmers to help cover new bills that are coming. But
Like state and federal.
yeah, but water
Budgets.
stuff. But there's that comment that you just made about transactional, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everything is transactional.
Yeah.
No matter if we want to sit here and everything is
depends on what
about
currency you pay
making
with.
money, but what
Yeah.
kind of money are you paying with?
Yeah,
And are
that's
you
right.
paying it with your health? Are you paying it with the actual American dollar?
Yeah.
Or the peso? It doesn't
Yeah, you have
matter.
your social currencies. We have our, economic currencies. We have our environmental currencies. And so, paying people with love. We had a lot of people that helped us in the kitchen. One of my buddies shows up. We had to throw him in there with her. He's like, man, I loved being in the Spanish-speaking kitchen because we had the Cubanos. We had some Mexicano friends. And it was just
fun.
like, and we needed him really bad. And so everyone just showed up and paid with that. A couple friends volunteered at the beginning and the end when we really needed them. And so,
awesome.
we paid those people, with food. We paid them with, just the love of being there and supporting each other and knowing that I owe them now something.
Yeah, but then
I didn't have to pay them physically with money, which means that that was a currency and that was a transaction. And it was a balance, it could be a trade of love or it could be a trade of goods.
But there's
or
also
services.
that's exactly where I'm going with this, because
I know you very well, Mel.
I know you can read me. Mental health, right, is the way that we balance our mind in our process of thinking and coping and decision making and nurturing and
All of it.
all of it, right? We can't function without our minds, right? But at the same time, everything that we do is about that decision that we make, how we support it, one another, how we vote, how we support. But there's so much to be said about understanding the transactions that we are searching for or wanting to make. And why I'm going with this is because a nonprofit versus a for-profit business,
Sure.
a fundraiser
Grant funded,
versus going out and making, where's money going that we've put into nonprofits, and then money is missing, but yet we're still paying, right? And then at the end of the day, how do we as a society continuously, for all of us who are working and paying the piper, right? How do we cope with this? How do we balance out? And I'm saying this because that conversation of when I said I have customers or people in general, my consulting, when people have an idea and they call me and they want me to consult, when I give them the facts on doing the project that they want, like what we actually have to do in order
translating
to
their
do
wants. That's what a consultant does.
Yes. And,
I
and
hear
then-
what you're saying. Let me translate it to you in real terms.
Exactly. And when they don't hear
Reality.
what they want to hear,
Yeah, sure.
how do they cope with it? How do I cope with the fact that half the things I tell them that they legally have to do it, I struggle with it too.
I think they had a show in the 80s for this, The Facts of Life.
Right? Well, their facts of life are different than our facts of
Well,
life.
yeah, it's moment to moment and everything moves. And I think when you were speaking, I really could hear sometimes, the transactions, you sort of pay or evaluate it with your head or with your heart, with your body. Like there's ways that you can feel, how that should be. And I think, again, just like we talk about sort of balancing our local economies by having goods and services, things traded in a regional, format that really gives you a lot more pride and ability to, exchange things with the social, cues and things there too. You feel good about giving the people the money. You're happy to see them take your services, or you're happy to pay for their services. So I think that, we really have to look at this as the same thing. And that's where maybe over the decades, that mental side or sort of some of that social side didn't get addressed. And we saw really, extreme things come out of that. I mean, that's the place where school shootings are born and, other issues. And it a lot of times just comes down to not having the communication or the community to support you. And that's something I think some friends are really great at asking lately too. They're like, oh, you're doing all this and stuff. Like, oh, who's your like support group, or how do you support, or trying to make youth success. We do a lot of programs where start it very young, and I usually tell people with their gardens, as we'll give them the keys to them, it's like, okay, your garden's installed. The first year is going to need a lot of weeding, and you're going to have to prune your plants so that they can, have a good framework from which to grow upon and become well-adjusted adult plants.
And if you're not,
and that's where we need to really
feeding
start.
that soil,
yeah,
whether it's in a
or what
pot,
are you feeding that soil? You're feeding it something.
You have to feed that soil.
Yeah.
How are you feeding that soil? Because
with
if
neglect or with love,
if you're not feeding it,
yeah,
you're not balancing it. Right? You're not,
and your plants are going to show it.
And all
It's
you're
the same
doing
with the
is
people.
you're taking from it, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy because teaching soil or teaching farming, teaching gardening, it's funny because I explain to people, when you're a first time gardener, you're a first time grower, you get into newer soil and all of a sudden it's just so giving, right? And you get this bumper crops of plants growing and things are producing.
Little beginner's luck.
The beginner's luck. The next year you might get a good garden.
You run into problems you don't know how to problem solve yet.
Yeah, not how to. But realistically, what defines you is that 6 year plus. Are you still being able to produce out of that same soil? Like, did you put back in what you took out? And when I
literally
say,
the same soil. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
People don't understand yearly. I'm thinking you put an input every year.
No.
That's my mind.
Your stamp, right?
Wow.
It's how are you going to continue to produce out of that stamp, right? Of the stamp of soil. But at the same time, it's your own. I'm also referencing
what are you
it to
stripping
that
every year?
your
What's
same
coming out?
Body.
Yeah.
Your body of your life.
Yeah.
Like, what are you taking out? And it's as simple as how I was teaching our soil class this week is to understand like a female body, right?
Okay.
When you're growing up, you are being exposed, you're making decisions, you're doing things that is what you were exposed to, or how you were teaching, but how you were taught to cope, or how
what your hormones respond to.
How you were taught to eat. People, remember, those things on your tongue is called your palate. You're taught what you like. You're taught what you want to eat. Yes, Miguel.
What's familiar?
You can eat vegetables too.
Oh yeah, that's one of our goals.
We're gonna get Miguel to eat vegetables. But this is something taught, right? What you are accustomed to. And I explain this to you all the time when I don't like fish. And when I say I don't like fish, it's kind of
my
broad.
palate isn't accustomed to it.
My palate isn't accustomed to it.
You're right. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah,
that's like the reality.
But that's something taught.
Even scientifically,
So as you grow up and then this female body, and then you decide if you want to have children or not. People don't realize everything you're exposed to or what everything you're doing, that baby is going to be exposed to that, right?
Yeah.
And then, things change and mutate. But the body is such an incredible thing because it can produce another life, right?
Yeah.
No matter what you do, you can produce another life. Whether it's healthy or not, that's
our
up to
fruits. Yeah, we're like a tree. We're producing those fruits.
But at the same time, is after that baby is born, right? We mothers are responsible of carrying on that life to the maturity of its life so that it can carry on, right?
You grow the baby and then you nurture the baby.
People don't realize how important it is to care for your body after. Right? And I'm explaining this because that's exactly how the soil is. You have this new life, you have this new soil, and you're wanting it to perform.
On the high harvest.
You're on the high. You have the harvest. Like you have your children, the seeds, the fruits of your labor, right?
Yeah.
How do you
care
care
like
that?
The maintenance.
How the maintenance.
Yeah, long-term maintenance.
That
you want a cover crop in the winter after you've grown like a summer crop. You can't just leave it fallow all winter.
No, and it's got to be maintained no matter what it is.
And it doesn't need as much nutrient or as much production. Like I said, a cover crop is like leaving something fallow, but at least it's covered.
Yeah, and
you're not worried about erosion. You're not worried about
just because the bag of fertilizer says it's organic, but it still had a bunch of synthetics in it. Are you going to still give that? Yes, we have modern pharmaceuticals and modern medicine that is, gotten us out of jail free cards so much, but just because. Over time, what is it doing to our bodies? Over time, what is it doing to our minds?
Yeah.
And that is what I'm trying to get out there and teach, because what I am really noticing being in the community, and myself included, the craziness of our society.
Sure. We're all living in the same place. Yeah.
We are living in the same place. Is getting harder and harder to cope with. And that is where I'm saying, see, Miguel,
that's a fair statement.
Coping in this community is getting harder, right? I'm all finding.
I mean, there's all kinds of pressures and stressors as we've talked. We've been sort of drawn to speak to things that are national or political without, really going into that with any intent. It is just what we're feeling and reflecting. So there is a lot that we're reflecting in this time frame that is at, some boiling points and some things are heating up. So it's almost changed too, because the planet's having to change because we've been doing things to it, over such a period of time. So environmentally, socially, we could say that's, going haywire. Extremes are sort of leading when we need to find balance. And then, what else we look at economically? Things are like eggs were more than the gold for a while there. And then you have, things that just really need, that's a fair place to look at finding balance.
I'm in the office at Creston Valley Meats today, and somebody asked me today, and I kind of stepped back, what happened to bird flu? What happened to all the craziness a couple months ago that we were having with all our chickens, and that's why we have no eggs, and that's why the egg prices are so expensive? What happened to that?
It warmed up.
Exactly. I know what happened to that, but at the same time, I'm putting that out again because there's just people maybe this is me coping because of how much I get asked these kind of off the wall questions. I'm like, can you just please turn off the TV? And listen and look at your neighbors, talk to your neighbors. What does their chickens have going on? And listen.
That's the first thing I did when my peppers were doing well. I was looking to see where we had planted something similar or knowing. Yeah. I ran into a pepper grower friend today, and I didn't dare ask how well he was doing, but he said loaded. So
yeah, but I'm just saying it's there's so much that keeps getting thrown at us that is literally scary. I'll be the first one. I'm finding myself at times not as confident and as comfortable putting myself out into the community because it's am I strong enough to cope with whatever comes my way? Yeah. I mean, yes, you kind of said it. It's school shootings, these, political extremes. Just because I might have voted one way, does that put me into a category that I can't talk to certain people? Yeah. Where did we become this society?
Yeah, that's why I think this platform has been so good, where we could come in and we could be completely honest. And I hope that we find people that want to, share in that, whether they agree, disagree, find just because I think if we're not having an outlet, that's where maybe those pressures are building up.
Yeah.
And like I said, some of the older generations, they let things build up to where it becomes a physical problem or something. And then younger generations I don't want to be like that. So you're kind of floating and doing. So again, it was finding accountability for your actions, accountability for your inputs, accountability for others to you. You have to hold others accountable, or else you're going to be imbalanced. So there's a lot there where, this has all become a microcosm. And I think luckily, it means maybe we look at ourselves in the mirror and find balance.
Yeah.
So as we're putting these things out there, I'm just finding that way to live. And I'm doing so much, economics with, friends and with people that I, love and trust, and just really, changing that narrative it's so hard or things are difficult. I'm kind of finding the grassroots or the bootstraps and saying, okay, start with the most simplest things forward. If I'm going to be doing things and moving, energies or exchanges and transactions of love and money, all these things. It's wow, I'm keeping surrounded by all my friends, and just being here and being.
So, but at the same time too, again, I'm going to speak on by myself, and what I'm feeling internally. At times, I have found myself just kind of, because at times I could be a little outspoken and a little strong in my experience. Yeah. You know me. I don't talk on behalf of things that I have not been involved in. I won't.
I know. I can come to you for that.
I'll be honest. Oh, I don't know. Call that person. I wasn't at that meeting, or I wasn't there. Or I don't know that person. So, but I'm that person. I don't want to know something I don't know, right? Yeah. I will know something that I went out and I found out for. But with that, I am finding myself at times though, just kind of going along with it because it's at times it's the easiest thing to do instead of constantly being that person that's calling it out or battling it out.
Instead of being really truly
just
authentic.
Being true. I'm just kind of
inauthentic so that you don't have to deal with it.
But isn't that enabling?
It depends on how heavy the situation is. Like we said, with children, sometimes you do something very extreme because they're young.
Right?
But if adults, I think that, sometimes you don't want to face it. But then again, that's finding that we want to hold people accountable. And why are we outspoken people? Why are we doing this together? It's because we are both outspoken. And it means that we're not afraid to say what we know or feel. Mm-hmm. And we want response to that. And so sometimes it is hard to put yourself out there because you're like, I've been through this argument so many times, so I find hopefully key phrases and I try to just really bring something that is, I feel like I'm getting more balanced because, I will, let other, kind of point of views or more things come in. I think as you can age or develop, you might find a different range of tolerance or a certain line. Maybe you're able to tolerate a little more.
No, I'm going to disagree with you because as I get older, I am finding less desire to just allow things to just be. And the reason is because I've been there, done that, and I saw if we just keep allowing that to continue,
we won't get in balance.
We're going to continue to go off balance and it's going to break or it's not going to be.
Auntie says don't do that. Auntie has good advice.
I'm witnessing things that we've just kept and enabling it, the bad behavior, the wrong going, and then when it all blew up in our faces,
not doing the next right thing.
We then came back and went, well, what happened? Why did we let that person continue to take that money and not be held accountable to what it was happening?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it's like, why do I have to be the one that always calls it out? But at the same time, too, is where do we draw the line as a society that's going, okay, we know this is wrong. But if we're going to continue to turn our heads, that's what we're going to continue to get.
Yeah, no, the silence, you're right. I mean, that's exactly what it is. But I think, we do speak out so that we can have agreement with others. And that is really, it's just what any animal probably communicates, right? Like you're trying to find a agreement within the herd, within the pack. I mean, we only speak so that we can find that common ground and we're not just living in these bubbles. So,
but you realize in animal
being the
world,
one who speaks up brings that out.
The weakest link gets taken out. So if we're going to talk herd mentality, right?
Okay.
In the herd, if you're weak, you're going out to be fed.
You're on the edge.
You're going to feed the mountain lions and the coyotes. You're not going to hang out with the herd. But so we are definitely not the herd mentality. But at the same time, we're smarter than this, and this is also. But at the same,
some people will connect to an agreement.
Are we smarter? Are we that mentally imbalanced? That's my question. Because where have we become the society that we're tolerant and we're allowance of wrongdoing continuously, but let's just throw a little money at it and hope it gets better. Oh, well, I donated to that. Why isn't that program working?
Sounds like Trump's campaign. So I don't know.
It's not Trump's campaign. Right. It is experience within this same community. Like we have systems right now that are just hanging on for dear life.
But I'm saying, that's what's at the top level. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of interesting allowances that we've all allowed and made in what has become America. So I think that, like I said, it's time we all look in the mirror and we decide, how do I want to live in my home? How do I want to live in my family, my community? And then we find ways to exchange and interact. And I think that's something I feel maybe as I've been reflecting on it with you here, I can see that the transaction I've been making is like, I want most of my transactions to be good, right? And to go to the right place. And like you said, not waste time in the improper things. And how do we do that next right thing so that we gain a good
do we know it
balance?
Right? Do we know right and wrong anymore? I'm only putting that because
say it again.
Do we know what right and wrong is anymore?
I hope that we all feel it. I think that if you give people a chance, most people will do good.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing a lot of signage for, using education on a public site, as authority, as opposed to like fines and penalties. Like, we dare you not to go in here, and people are going to go. And it's like, it's like, if you go in here, this is what you're going to be ruining. Like, this is who did this. Mm-hmm. And so people have the choice. And hopefully there's only 10% that live to mess things up and 10% that want to lead. I think that it's so hard to say, what should my temperament be, or what should people agree on? Some people lead, some people follow, and some people mess it up.
Yep.
So, and we kind of rotate through those depending on the topic. So I think that as a whole, I guess, are you saying there was not enough people asking for accountability or not enough people agreeing once this has been found?
Yeah. I think there's
how
less,
do we have more people speaking up, I think, and less?
But and then speaking up is also
or voting or
showing
using,
up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Giving the currency.
Showing
giving
up.
Something of value.
Every meeting that I have been to, I'm going to go a little political on this one.
All right.
Every meeting that I've shown up to or participated in, the new people that got a media bite that said, I'm just going to because this is what is going to start happening a lot. Government is taking your water, right? When they hear that, all of a sudden everybody
fight over that,
everybody
yeah.
wants to come when there's a drama story or chaos or
Catastrophe.
or finally when it actually made the media, right?
Yeah.
What do I hear the most when I'm in those meetings from other people? Because I've been there. I've been either Zooming it or I've been reading minutes. I've been making phone calls going, okay, please help me. I wasn't at that meeting. I was working or I had something that I had to do. I could not attend that meeting. Explain to me in your terms, how did you see
me
that
an
meeting?
account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how to give me an
What's
account
the
to that
account?
meeting. But every time I'm at meetings and I show up and there's new people because, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. And it's like, I have to hold back of going, where have you been? Right? Like, this has been going down the train tracks. Where have you been? Right? But I hold myself
sure.
back.
I'm glad
and then
to
I
hear that.
ask, and then they start asking these questions. And it always is controversy that starts the attention, right? It starts that attention seeking of what's really going on. But the sad part is well, how can this happen? How did this happen? When did this happen? This is what I get the most in the questions of people wanting to ask me, like, how we got
Why are we here now?
Why did we get
I
here?
wasn't paying attention. What happened?
Bingo. And then it becomes,
I wasn't being held accountable to this.
and then, but again,
Or holding myself accountable.
But, and again, I
I think
don't,
holding yourself, that's where we really need to find
Right?
some inner
and that is
strength
where
through this culture.
this is the conversation that I'm coming with, is because things have happened. We've enabled things. We've allowed things. We've had excuses, but also at the same time, where are we standing right now and going? We've also had things very easy, comparably to most other people in the rest of the world.
Yeah, most
But at
countries, we live very
at the same time,
comfortably.
it's like, okay, now we need to get back to work.
Yeah.
Now and there can't be enabling or excuses. You have to work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to work more because we haven't been putting balanced nutrients
Yes.
back into the soil.
All comes back
we've
together.
been taking out
We've been
and not
reaping what we
putting
sow.
and not putting
that's
back
it.
in.
Yeah, and that's true, right? On all those levels, economically, socially, environmentally. I think that we are in a bit of a bankrupt position, in a lot of ways. And it's sort of where everyone is kind of hitting bottom and in their own way. And so how are they responding to that? Or when people are hitting bottom, I think it's like, how are we going to respond? I think it is a big call. And there's got to be some sort of, rallying cries. There's got to be some unification. And I think that, like you said, almost all way of life has changed. I mean, we've been through pandemic. We've been through, all these different extreme administrations and economic, things that fluctuated from our, percentages to.
I mean, we can talk
tariffs
about.
and everything
Weather.
we could get through.
Weather change, right? Where people want to
The
call
weather's
it
been just as
climate
erratic
change.
as our economics.
But
yeah.
why though? Because if look at the big picture,
'Cause of our actions.
I love when we do a Google or a world map view of over the times. The last 10 years,
Yeah.
the last 20 years.
Time
the
lapse, yeah.
Look at the time lapses of our country, let alone
Sure.
California. Look at the
Farmland and
look at the amount of development
housing, yeah.
that we have endured.
Or how much has run out from the rivers,
How do
into
we
the
not
oceans.
sit here and go, well, climate change, it's going to change our climate when we take vegetation and put a house on
Yeah,
it.
just take responsibility for it. I think people are always afraid to be vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and they're afraid to admit things. And I think we see that from an older generation down, like not being able to admit vulnerabilities or asking for help at those right times. Like, oh, we better do it. And we talked a lot about America and what does that mean today? And like, what is independence here when we got through the 4th of July? So it's kind of like, yeah, we're at such a moment in America to grow. And luckily it's not really through, I think a civil war or, a real blood war. It's like through this sort of everyone finds something in themselves to start giving to the whole. And now the whole account can go up. It's not just what is my personal account? What is my whole account? Not just what is my dollars and cents in my account? What is my relationship? What are my, all these things that we pay in these different currencies? I think something more holistic. And that's the same thing we look at with food. Eat more holistic. Hey, when you're looking at, all of the niches of nature, it's like, let there be, diversity. and celebrate that diversity. And I think, shoot, that's what we did Saturday. We celebrated that I have Cuban friends that are in California, and how can we do something that really, unites us, and everyone can be like, oh wow, I love sandwiches. Yeah, here's a great one. Here, I love rice and beans. I mean, something really simple, or we just really love being together. It's so great to have the kids running around, and everybody out there eating, having a good time. And just, listening to good music. And a lot of people getting a little cultural edge are like, wow, I've never salsa danced before. This is fun. Or I've never done this and it's fun. It's just, so great. Just plantains. I mean, how many times people have talked about just a food thing? So I think America needs to just embrace what is its identity and what is its intrinsic characteristics. And it has been to have so much. America's about having so much. And it doesn't matter where you're from. You're going to come here and you're going to have too much.
And it's crazy to think about how different we are as a society. If you look at history, I'm just going to go here.
Migration and
migration, but I mean, there's word on the street that there's a large scale producing company in San Miguel. It's closing its doors. And there's going to be a lot of production jobs lost, right? And I heard that the other day and I went, wait a minute. If we're going to start losing wine production jobs in this community, because growing vineyards, it's not about growing vineyards, it's about, selling water, and then, and then it's real estate, and it's not about producing anything anymore, right? What happens when we start losing those type of jobs? What else do we produce in this county that could employ those hundreds of jobs that are already being announced, that are being lost? What could we do in this community?
How do we be accountable?
How do we be accountable
for those people of our community that are losing their jobs?
Exactly. Right there, and again, mental health is where I'm going with this one too, because how does people in this community, knowing that you're going to start paying more for water, we can't get fire insurance, we can't, the cost of living in this community. Somebody said to me the other day that I need to have a discussion with a political figure, and I said, I'm not sure, because I'm not agreeing with that person very much, because they're making it to the point, they're speaking out and doing things that they're making it even more expensive for us to live here. And he stopped and he stopped and he goes, oh my gosh, she thinks that she's just working to make the rank and the regulation. He goes he don't think any of us knew that he or she is even what they're doing. It is making it expensive. I don't think they put two and two together, Mel. And then I'm like, okay, so that's, again, how do people keep being able to get grounded, be accountable when things just keep coming, that most people are not putting the two and two together by what your actions are doing, are creating it to be more expensive for the ones that are holding on to this society and paying for things.
Well, the wealth is being hoarded in certain places. And again, it's just kind of ranging through the generations. And so how do we hold our culture accountable for providing for the next generation and taking care of, our elders? And so we all go through this life cycle, and without really knowing it, America grew so much. And so we don't really have that same answer that maybe was there within 25, 50, 75 years ago. The culture has really changed. And what was before that was so different too. Every, century has really had its mark on, what it has invested in. Mm-hmm. And then so many things have changed. So I think now we just have to stop looking at the equation so linearly. They just cannot really get there with, this single line. I mean, the world is so much more multidimensional. And so I just thought, when you talk about 100 people losing their jobs in the green industry like that, I'm hoping that there's other business out there like, God, I really need a manager. I really need more labor. I really need something. And everyone goes into a place or they start their own business. I mean, I have a really great friend, like a brother to me, who went through.
I need meat packagers.
Yeah, see, I mean, these people are going to be absorbed because we love them and we want to take care of each other. And when we can do it with what we do have, our local means, then we don't get outside of our means. And that's where America just got so big, so quick, so cold. I mean, even culturally, it doesn't know how to hold and rein all that in. So just being more with a sense of place. If you're in this community now, you participate in it, no matter who you are or what you look like. And, these things are great. There's a couple of quick stories. So one friend, essentially moved here to start doing a corporate job. and was headhunted, kind of like, come back, run this business for us. And he's like, okay, I'm not that person, but I love the Central Coast and I want to get paid. Sure, let's see what that's like. I don't know what that's like to be well paid. So gets the job, and then all of a sudden the stresses that come with it, and then the whole kind of thing imploded. They just fire him, with real no cause. And he's like, so I lost that big corporate job that I'm doing. But then it was like, I was like, hey, maybe good, maybe bad, right? I told him a little Tibetan story where a farmer's son breaks his leg herding, a stallion. And so the neighbor comes like, oh no, your son broke his leg. That's terrible. Like, what are you going to do now? And he's like, I don't know. It could be good, could be bad. And then like within a month or so, like a call to war came and all the men had to leave the village to go to war. And his son was mending his leg. And so his son got to stay home and not have to,
things always happen for a reason.
So there's sort of like this story, right? So I told him, so now that he's, got out of this job, and he's like, wow, what am I going to do? I really put a lot of eggs in this basket. He's like, my phone won't stop ringing. I keep getting calls for, will you come work with me? Will you come do this? I'm going to go, start like a eco camp or something and live in the mountains and, design things, buildings otherwise. So it just opened up so much. I really hope that we find these ways to expand each of those points and not think, oh, this is bad, or, oh, it costs too much. It only costs too much if you don't know people here.
Yeah.
We all take care of each other.
What's that definition? When you don't know what the true cost of anything is.
Well, show up, like you said, at the meetings, show up at the community parties, show up at, friends' businesses. I think that we have to redefine what that means.
But it's also, we talked about this a little bit off air too. It's like, where do we become this is my property, that's your property? We become that because we've had to, because of legalities, one
not
person.
Not my backyard,
not my
backyard.
Not my, but I mean, liability insurance,
that's
there's
the number one question all my friends are asking me right now.
Everything is
running
about
their own businesses.
Insurance. Well, I mean, even if you own.
Hey, I want to take some kids to go have fun in the ocean on kayaks.
You can't.
Well, you better get some good insurance.
Do you think you could pass a DOJ? And I just giggle because it's like nobody even knows what, like, your background check.
Do a judgment? Yeah.
Do a judgment. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like there's so much that our society has created because of a bad apple in that box. And instead of just taking the apple out of the box,
selling the rest of the box,
and selling the rest of the box, we have created this, big dilution of the actual problem, right? And it's so again, it's where do we change that?
We all know what's right and wrong. We just got to do it. I mean, that comes out. We don't need laws. We don't need rules. We don't need borders. We don't need all these things.
And we stand up for those people that we know are doing it right.
If you just start doing that, I think it builds itself around you. Community builds around you.
Yep.
You can't say, "Where's my community? Where is community?" You have to be.
I am community.
Right?
Yeah.
And just like Jello Biafra was a great punk rock singer, but then he said, don't hate the government, become the government.
Yep.
And that's always been sort of my model and mantra, was like, I'm not going to complain more than I'm going to give solutions.
Right.
And so there's so many kid sayings. I mean, you got to know, don't say anything if you don't have anything nice to say. All these things where you get to a point of like,
I don't know how to be quiet though.
Yeah. Well, you and me both, sisters.
Dude, I don't have anything intentionally.
We got time to fill. Don't worry.
I don't have anything to say mean, but sometimes when you're teaching things, it's not what you want to hear.
Well, strong and true gets taken as mean.
The topic of conversation of the show, but it's because how do we cope with things just because it's not the answer you wanted to hear? Like, and I laugh.
Yeah.
Because there's also this other situation
Gentle
in our family. Okay. So I'm trying to sell some chickens. Okay. I have a lot of chickens because, I'm taking my fertile eggs, and we have 10, George,
Chicks?
10 incubators, and all my chicken eggs are fertile. So I have a lot of chickens.
Yeah.
Really healthy right now. So I'm trying to sell them. There's been an overall outreach to me of interest in our chickens. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, I'm just going to say, because it's funny.
Let's hear it.
Oh, there is an overwhelming response. And I was in a car with my family a little longer yesterday, so I was reading the responses. The responses overall are women looking for or coming to me and saying, how old are your chickens? How much are they? I'm giving them the information. Then it becomes, at the very end, let me ask my husband.
Interesting.
And I'm not kidding you. All of my responses over social media, that's what it's become. My husband in the passenger seat, because my 22-year-old is driving. Wow, those women are nice.
They thought of me.
What wife actually asks their husbands? And my daughter chimes in with, not any of us. Like, I mean, she's like, what a waste of time.
Thanks to the baby.
To ask,
So
to
beautiful.
ask, you have to ask your husband if you're going to bring home chickens. I'm like, don't look at me. And then Clint goes, yeah, Savannah, ask your mother. When was the last time she asked me if it was okay to bring home baby emus and chickens and ducks and turkeys? You know,
Whatever was on the road that day.
Yeah, wild ducks, you know, and hey, they flew off. You know, so like maybe I'm that kind of wife. Maybe I forgot.
Well, you know what it made me think of was like maybe people who are like, oh, let me ask my husband who's going to have to be accountable for taking care of these chickens.
How about this? My daughter responded with, why ask what you already know the answers for and just ask for forgiveness later?
Yeah. Well, life lessons. That's a
I've
good
raised
one.
her so well. You know, but at the same time, it's like, again, like, this is what I'm saying. I don't understand that because I've not ever set my life out. Like, there's so much
have someone else accountable for
there's
everything.
so much love and respect in my marriage, and at the same time, we are on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, I go, oh, honey, you might not want to walk out in that pen today. He goes, why is that? Well, you probably aren't going to like what you see in there, you know. And at the same time, he knows what I'm doing, right? There's communication between. He knows that he's going to probably have to build me a new pen.
Dance of all that.
Yeah,
you know,
but
fine line.
and it's a fine line. So I'm not disrespecting or calling out the ones that have to. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's kind of that kind of overall thought. It's like, do I have to ask for permission of leading my life in a positive, you know, balanced manner already? Am I supposed to be asking permission for what am I doing?
What are you accountable for?
What am I accountable for? Right? Like
as an individual, as a mother, as a community member, a business owner, all these layers that we wear. And I think that, each one of those hats, we sort of have to say, you're only accountable for what you sort of know you should be, and find that line that, you know, you're really not putting things on others, and you're not leaving a lot on others, you know, to have to do for you. And I think that's all we could really ask for in our life, is to find that kind of balance. That's sort of like the Buddhist middle path right there.
And at the same time, right there, it also made me aware. I was like, I mean, Clint comes to me and says, hey, Mel, I'm going to go do this. Okay. You know, but that's also, you know, the amount of years of work and accountability between the both of us. And I'm using that as an example because it's important. And that is how I've led my life of like, you know, I'm going to go out with good intents of not burdening my relationship. But at the same time, it's like you have to give, right? But at the same time, you also have to live.
Okay.
You right? Like you have,
I like that soundbite.
You have to live, but living within your means.
Yeah.
Don't do it just because.
Yeah, don't give too much of yourself. Don't give too little of yourself, you know.
Exactly.
Like
and that's the thing.
Eat the porridge that's just right.
If I wanted chickens, I'm going to go do chickens because I know I can do it, right? I'm not going to go and do chickens and raise chickens because I can't do it, right?
Yeah.
You go out and you're having these amazing
people are asking you. I wouldn't
parties.
ask you a lot of questions about chickens. I would trust you.
Well, you know, I've had my first chicken was named Clyde, and I was 3 years old, and Clyde had a diaper, and same with Sammy the goose. You know, so I've been they had a diaper because it came inside. They followed me everywhere I went. They asked
this is all making more and more sense now.
Ask my family.
I never asked about the early years of Melanie.
Clyde and Sammy went everywhere with me, and even in the vehicle. And it's funny because it's a genetic thing. Because when Savannah was a little girl, a baby swallow fell out of. No, it was a house finch. A baby house finch fell out of its nest, and Savannah found it. She was 6 when she found it. She brought it up, and it was struggling, right? We hand fed that baby. His name was Chirp. He flew away, and they still migrate back to the ranch. And I laugh because
animals love help like that.
You know, and I think when Savannah was 3, we hatched a bunch of baby chicks, and there was this one that kind of didn't hatch properly. And I came in her room the next morning because she had the light in there, and I couldn't find the one that had the bad leg. She was sound asleep, and all of a sudden I hear this little cheep, cheep. she had the chick in her hair asleep with her in bed, and she said that she felt that it was sad because it didn't have a mommy, and maybe being in her hair it felt like it was a mom. She was little when she did it, so it's a genetic thing. And of course maybe other parents would be like, get the chicken out of your hair, I'm not. I'm like,
Must have been a nature versus nurture thing. That could be a lot of nurturing.
And then it became the also vaccines, right? Everybody was talking about the new avian vaccine or the new swine vaccine. I had a daughter, the same daughter that said, Mom, why do you ask Dad what you already know the answer to? Just ask for forgiveness later. This is the same daughter. This is also the same daughter goes, Mom, they're saying that I'm going to have a new avian flu vaccine for going to school. And I'm like, oh, I didn't hear about that. But yeah, no, I hear all the time that there's a new strain and you should do this vaccine.
Especially for teenagers.
And I'm like, something. Yeah. And I'm like, Savannah, she goes, I think we need more chickens. Avian, how we're going to be, we're going to grow our immunities by being exposed to raising chickens,
more
right? Like,
chickens
and then I'm like, okay. And then the next year was a swine flu, right? And she's like, well, Mom, that just justified we need to bring more pigs home because I need to be immune to them. So we need to raise more pigs, and I mean, this is the mind of my children. Yes, Clint and I both have given the exposure to this and the free willing of thinking, and to be who you want to be kind, be courteous, but be who you want to be. I saw my babies when they were born as who they are. I'm there to raise them, to teach them, to guide them, but I never
we
wanted
all have
to,
an independence.
I never wanted to
yourselves.
change them,
Yeah.
right? I wanted to teach them.
Yeah.
And that was, my goal of how to be a part. And also too, my kids, I wanted them to learn from the community.
Yeah.
And so that exposure
Takes
is
a
also
village is a good saying,
And so Cody's comments yesterday were nice, Mom. Listen to the comments your daughter has about men, and that's became the joke.
You even picked up a few kids from the village too.
We had extras in the car, so but that's also who I am. Not everybody needs to be like this, but at the same time, there's got to be that accountability. I'm being accountable that maybe I did raise a daughter that's like, I ain't asking. I'm asking for forgiveness later. I'm like, oh, Lordy, what's coming home? But, moving forward in this conversation, Josh, I really want to hone in realizing and helping this community realize it is all about being better within our society, being open to whatever conversation it is. I am that person that's going to talk about what comes at me in comments or questions or concerns, but it's not in the fact of saying it's bad or judging it in a negative manner. It's bringing it to the awareness of this is what people are saying and how do we cope with this? How do we manage this? How do I give them the answer they deserve? And I'm saying, even though at times that I feel it's a negative comment, I still believe and feel they deserve better in my response.
The truth.
Truth. And it's...
Well, I think being able to hold yourself accountable means that you can tell people the truth when it's the truth, whether it's, positive or a negative, outcome or response. It's like you don't know. And like I said, it's just like losing your job and you don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. And so many things. You have to have, faith and belief, starting with yourselves and starting to move out, by those around you. And I think that so much why I think we can speak strongly in this community is that we see each other so much. Like I said, I keep realizing I'm having, transactions with just people and friends that really live here or, finding more and more just connection in the community, no matter what business I'm in.
Yep.
And so I had to do a lot of shopping for this event. I was in a lot of places. And I think that, we live in an area where these are what our, kind of, expectations or, in a better word is just, what are our gratitudes? What are we grateful that we have here?
So when people ask, are you making money? Yes. I mean, who doesn't make money? And you have the ability, but at the same time, everything's transactional. You're right. Yeah. And it's, sometimes I might not make, that record-breaking income, but the overall is pretty awesome, right?
Or you made a really great
Or there's years that I'm like, I didn't make hardly anything, but yet it was such a prosperous, fulfilling year. You know what I mean? And it's not going to, no matter what industry you're in, no matter where you're at. And yes, some people, their intelligence or their, what they've created has generated so much wealth,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where it's, you know, the lifestyle is awesome.
That's a whole topic we haven't talked about.
Yeah, but at the
Yeah.
same time, there are people that don't have, in the sense of financial wealth, but are so incredibly fulfilled.
Yeah, I think you got to have those accounts full, you know, and something that came up really great lately was just like Tupac mentioned Donald Trump's name in a comment, you know, in the 90s,
yeah.
right? So he's just talking and he's saying like, how could anyone have, you know, millions of dollars? And he's like, $32 million. That was a lot back then, right? Where that's ballooned.
pocket change.
It's all billions now. So, but anyways, it was so great to hear him, you know, just like spitting truth like he does of something cultural and without, you know, he has a total belief of saying what's true. And it just was like, you don't want to be someone like Donald Trump who has millions of dollars and isn't, you know, taking care of like homeless people or taking care of how people starving and someone has a home this big. But it just really hit that chord with me of like, yeah, how are we able to measure these currencies that we have so that, you know, our expectations are lower than our gratitude and we're not looking for more or needing more that's going to be fulfilling or not? Because for you, you know, your business isn't just about the dollars and cents and the money that you're bringing in. It's about the animals. I mean, you just told us all the stories, right? It's about the animals, the people, you know, who you feed with this, and in the community, how we support each other, knowing that we can all go to sleep at night because I'm able to, you know, feed my family tomorrow, knowing I can get food from you or, you know, each other from our farms.
But everything comes in a
producers.
balance, and and then I'm not one to judge, you know, anybody's wealth or anybody's poverty, right?
Yeah.
If somebody needs help in any level, whatever income they're at, I'm there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not there to even say what is right and what's wrong.
Of course.
You know, Tupac also saying about California love, and he wasn't even from California. So, you know, there's
You don't
that.
think he lives here enough?
No. You know, so it's like it's you know,
South Central.
it's all South. You know, it's like, but you see what I'm saying? It's like it's all about what translation everything becomes, right? And it's all the expectations of, and that's where wealth is how we live, right? Yes.
Yeah, wealth is a measure of your
measure of how we are, and
health and wealth.
And we, as a society, need to not categorize to the point where they're over here that is untouchable, and we're down here and not.
Yeah, the haves and have-nots is always really the battle. And for me, I guess, you know, I really look at those social bottom lines and, you know, what we call a triple bottom line of just balance or accountability and profit making. But it's like, okay, yeah, economically, get your dollars and cents, you know, that's fair and distributed. And then, you know, socially, it's like you got to have love.
Gotta have love.
If you're not sharing that wealth with someone, then you don't really have that health that you need. So it's like, for me, you could have a little, you know, Mexican grandmother, a little Italian grandmother who's like really poor in money, but she'll have people line up around the block that would take a bullet for her or do anything. And then you might have someone who's a CEO and he's jumping out of a building because he's like, wow, I don't have anyone in my life to share this with. I've sort of, you know, overshot, you know, all of that heartfelt part that really equals a huge currency. I think the universe works on, you know, energy, which love is part of. And so dollars and cents is just our way of breaking it down, you know, between each other. But, especially people we don't know we give money to. People we know, we don't even have to include money in a lot of things. No. And so it's just a transaction of love.
And that's I think a beautiful thing. I think in all of where I'm coming from in this conversation is, where do we gather better? You know, and that is where, again, translation of soil, you know, translation of community, water, and not being afraid to stand up and go, okay, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
You know, does it mean that you need to move out of this community? No. It's meaning that we need to go back and get dirty. We need to go back to work.
Volunteer your time in some way or another. Yeah.
We might need to be the society that is about producing something again, managing things better than, you know, and holding.
Well, the government, we should be the government.
Holding the wealth, or holding nonprofits, holding, you know, the systems that are, you know, diversion of money more accountable. Like you know, how do we hold them more accountable?
That's a high crime. Yeah, that's a high crime. Just like stealing someone else's house.
How do we hold them accountable? It's the way we live, and the way we spend our money, and the way we interact socially, right? That is how the accountability. You don't have.
Yeah, it's just being more honest, more true health, true wealth. Doesn't mean if you have billions of dollars, you're a great person. Doesn't mean if you have no money, you're a bad person. You know, there's so many perceived extremes that you have to bring up. And there's just so many great stories that always lead us to that point.
Yep.
You know?
And then at the end
Look
of
at
the day,
Cinderella.
it's always about how do we become better as a society? How do we put ourselves better out there? And I'm also saying, come join us in this conversation
Yes,
because
please.
I'm sharing these conversations and comments that are coming towards me, but I would love to have people join us in because again, it would give a different balance. You and I are
We're coming up with this off the cuff without people being
the outspoken
accountable.
ones. Maybe we need somebody
Yeah.
that can translate not being so outspoken because I have no problem being outspoken.
Yeah.
You have no
We
problem
need
being
some
outspoken.
introverts on the radio, please. All
We
introverts
need
sign
to
up.
have somebody that is going to
Yes.
then balance this out into this conversation. So,
Okay.
Any politicians?
I dare any of them to come. No, I'm just kidding.
We can deal with politicians.
Yeah, I definitely. But
They might not want to deal with us, but we can deal with them.
I posted out there that promotion of live, right? We are live. People are asking how they can communicate. You know, there's a chat boxes, there's text messaging, there's all the ways.
Come find us in the community later this
messaging,
week.
But all on YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram,
Yeah, join in,
Facebook.
please.
Join in.
Right now.
I think this 5th week of July is going to change after August because I'm going to be honest with you. You know, my other struggles I've been is getting people to be committed. Are you feeling it too? It is
Let's
like,
wait after the fair.
oh my goodness, like the amount of people.
Bringing back that ability to
people
commit.
that want
like
to
you
do
said, people
things-
that want chickens, they're not committing.
They're not committing.
Everyone's
I'm like,
giving
what
an excuse.
do you realize this is seasonal, right? Like this is, you know, I am struggling with the fact of getting people to commit. And so I'm feeling like after this week, there's going to be some changes going on. But again, reach out. You know, you guys can reach me. Obviously, a lot of people know CrestonValleyMeats.com, Nature's Touch Nursery and Harvest. I have one more announcement that I would like to make.
Okay.
I'm going to say it sadly, but it was needed because, you know, the weather. But Templeton Feed and Grain did move into their temporarily new location off of Ramada Drive, which has got a Paso address, not a Templeton, but it is north of Templeton.
Right up by the freeway or something.
Yeah, I'm just going to give Quinn Reynolds a little shout out because it's right behind Quinn Reynolds. So everybody
great,
that knows
yeah.
where Quinn Reynolds is, Templeton Feed and Grain's new location
46
is
West.
it's temporary. You know, they got a transitional thing. I'm sad that they're not at Nature's Touch. And why? Because, you know, did it bring more business? You know, everybody now knows about Scoop of Nature ice cream, right? Everybody knows.
Hot days and ice cream equals,
buy a
boom, who knew?
bag of feed, and you got a scoop of ice cream, right? So yes, Melanie does have Scoop of Nature ice cream at Nature's Touch Nursery and
Boom.
Harvest in our little window. Yes, it's a new seasonal flavor is pina colada. So pina colada's coming in, but we have a ton of different flavors. So the sadness for me was their employees. You know, I'm gonna miss Tom. Well, I haven't seen Tom because he's been on vacation. But Rick and Stacy, they're the new owners. Rick is the son of Tom. He's, you know, he is the example of what I say in building something, holding on to it, and then passing it on.
Sure,
Right?
they've
Templeton
done it
Feeding
another
Grain has done it for
generation.
3 generations.
Yeah.
Super awesome and a good example, but I'm not going to see them every night when we close. You know, their staff, Barb,
a special
Andrea,
moment in time.
all, you know, they're just an
Maybe we'll have
amazing
big
group
parties
of
over
people and knowledgeable. And that's what I'm going to miss. So I'm sad to say that Templeton Feed and Grain is not at Nature's Touch anymore. But it's also exciting because now they can bring in alfalfa bales of hay at this new location because they have an indoor spot.
yeah.
Because all of us growers know that the moment you bring hay out or you cut your hay as a farmer, you know it's going to rain, right? That's the only reason why they never had alfalfa at Nature's Touch. So reach out to them. They're no longer at our spot. I will be honest with you. It's going to be funny for all the people that are still texting me, asking me if I carry chicken scratch.
Or how much on the shelf.
What's the inventory on? So I'm not getting, I can't even walk out and ask them anymore, guys. Right. So reach out to them. Super happy that they had that option and we're still moving them on, right? And still being able to
life
get them.
is going on.
Yes, and so, gosh, there's still so much going on, you know, at Nature's Touch. We're back to our normal hours. We were doing 6 days a week because Templeton Feed and Grain did 6 days a week. We're back to being closed on Sunday and Monday so that I can catch up on farming and paperwork. So, and paying attention to Creston Valley Meats because that's my other big project. So, Crescent Valley Meats, where we do raw pet food and human grade meats. So check us out, be a part, and yeah, you'll catch me back on August 4th with you. August 4th is the next Monday. I
next
know.
Month. I know when I looked today, I was like, July still? Wow, okay.
5.
Yeah.
5 Mondays. Made the things a little weird. So, guys, have a really good week.
Till next time.
Till next time. Thank you, Josh.
Cheers.